Welcome to the ERP Seal podcast. My name is Tim Rodman. We are live today on Friday, July 17th, 2026, and this is episode number 179. You can find related links for the episode today on the screen there at erpseal.com/episode 179. And we've got Kent Richeson on today to talk about AI and ERP. And does it even matter? We're in sort of a club of no hair / gray hair. So we got some perspective here.
Whoa, gray hair, Tim.
I thought it was. Is it not? Is the light hitting it wrong? Oh, my bad.
Okay. Bad lighting, but for the record.
Yeah, okay. All right. My bad. Well, I'm already in hot water here, but thanks, Ken, for coming on. We got some experience. How about that? We got like an experience perspective to talk about AI and ERP. And I put in the episode title, Does It Even Matter? Why we should care? Is it really disrupting? All that kind of fun stuff. So looking forward to the chat.
As am I, Tim. Thanks so much for having this conversation today and for inviting me to talk about this topic. Really looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. Well, before we get into that, I always like to spend some time to hear the origin story of our guests. So maybe you could tell us where you grew up. You were about to tell me before we hit record where you were born. I would like to hear a little bit about that. Just a little bit of background on you, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you initially got into this world of mid-market ERP. And then you, because you've had a number of different roles in this profession, you can kind of walk through some of those. Yeah, let's hear the backstory.
Sure.
I like hearing the background of people.
Okay, well, we were chatting before we went live here, and you were saying, I want to learn about you. And I said almost in passing, kind of in joking, I was born in Munich, Germany. Well, I was born in Munich, Germany, but my dad was a career Army officer. So he was posted in Germany, and that's where I was born. And that is a big part of my origin story, Tim, because growing up in a military family, we moved kind of all over the place. And when you went to a new place, you kind of got kicked out the door and said, go make friends. So a big part of my personality is going out and finding people and talking to people and building relationships. And I do think fundamentally and foundationally, it made me kind of who I am today. So I always love to talk to people and get perspectives and learn and meet them and find out their origin stories. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is on the backs of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of partners that I've had the privilege to work with in the 25 years I've been in the tech industry. I started my tech journey with a Great Plains partner. And I say Great Plains back when Doug Burgum owned Great Plains. So I have been, to Fargo, North Dakota. I can check that box in the winter, not just for Stampede, for those of you that might remember that. And then I had a chance to help launch SAP Business One here in North America and really, go through the learning curve there of what it meant to bring a new platform, a new product into a market with partners. I've spent some time in the Sage ecosystem, the NetSuite ecosystem, a good deal of time in the Acumatica ecosystem. And today my primary role is as a partner business development manager for Infor. So I've got I think a good point of view, having worked exclusively with partners in all of those stops. I've said, and people that are listening to this will know this, I do believe that the very best way to take technology to market is through a trusted business partner. That's because that's what customers are looking for. Customers are looking for somebody that can cut through the noise, cut through the fog, and not just sell them technology, but help them understand how technology is going to make their business better. And that's a big part of today's discussion around AI. We really have to resist the temptation to fall in love with the technology and make sure as partners and publishers, we continue to say that here is how this technology improves your business, saves you money, helps you make money, the critical business processes that you have. This is how AI can help or will help. Because I don't know if we're there just yet with AI. Is that kind of what you were looking for?
You are
I'm
talking
sorry.
about services partners, right? Like value-added resellers. That's specifically where most of your history has been working with, right?
Correct. My history is with the traditional value-added reseller who understands a market and then represents the technology, configures, customizes, implements, supports, and services that customer, what would be described as your traditional value-added reseller.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and I should mention here, I screwed up on the time. This is the first time this has happened. I think it's because I scheduled this when I was in San Diego, and so the time zone messed up. And anyways, the LinkedIn side at least, I had to get deleted and recreated, but we figured it out.
Well,
Saved
no
about
worries
15
there,
minutes.
Tim. I think we can share some blame in that. Having grown up in a military family and then served in the Marine Corps, it's a struggle for me to tell time. So but between the two of us, it's going to be recorded. The people are going to have access to it, and hopefully, it's going to be worth a watch.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring up the point about being from a military family, moving around a lot, and the impact that has on. I think you might have used the word personality, but even just like your role career wise, because I've actually seen that before. Someone else I'm thinking of specifically in the ERP industry who had the same experience growing up, and yeah, whatever your experiences is, what it is, right? You lean into it, and I think
Yes.
it's really neat when you find a way to. I don't know, kind of get an ROI on that experience where, yeah, that's it. That's a good way to put it. You learn how to make friends, you learn how to go into unfamiliar territory and make it work. And it's cool to see that you're able to apply that to your work. I think it's really neat.
Well, I've been very fortunate, Tim. Like I said, I had great parents, married the right person, got great kids, wonderful educational opportunities, and then, like I said earlier, I think the fact that I'm very willing to reach out to partners. I talk to partners all the time, and I'm really interested in what they're seeing in the marketplace, the challenges that they're having, because I don't want to be, the person that sits in Raleigh, North Carolina, and comes up with these big ideas and publishes them. I want to make sure they're market tested and that they've got some validity and value to the audience I'm trying to reach. I'm just a big fan of partners. I think it's the right business model for technology publishers. And quite candidly, I'm a little concerned about the partner community right now as AI is impacting them and as the traditional ERP space becomes commoditized and democratized. What do I sell as a partner? How do I create that durable, sustainable, profitable business model that either I want to continue or I want to value or I have a legacy play to family or associates. I want to make sure those partners have the opportunity to be as successful as they want to be. There was a great post this past week on LinkedIn. Candace Edelin did a technology moat post, and it's really one of the best things I've read over the past couple of 3 months. And we used to be able to build this moat around our business, and it would
Yeah.
protect us, and it would give us a period of time because we were the experts in the technology. I knew how to customize and configure, everything down to the general ledger and the order to cash process. And people were so reliant on us as partners that they had to call us. Now with the interwebs and with AI, a lot of times our value is getting compressed. So that moat is getting, compressed to I don't have as much time or protection that I used to have to figure out what I'm going to do next. So
And
you
I'll
gotta,
put a link to that post on the episode page, erpseal.com/ episode
yeah,
179. Yeah, I like Candace, really sharp. So I haven't read it yet, but I'll read it. And
yeah, it's a must read. I
when
think,
you
in my opinion, it's a must read.
just when you say the phrase technology moat, what I hear, and tell me if this is what you read and even just your personal opinion, what I hear is more and more companies are just using AI to build software. And so the knowledge that a partner would bring, which is I don't know, I would look at it as a moat around the particular ERP that they know well. Now there's a lot more. It's the wall is not as defined because companies are just kind of building a lot of stuff themselves with AI. Is that what it is, or something else?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, you can have and both, so to speak. I'm not a believer in the build. I don't see a lot of building my own ERP platform. There's a lot of risk. If I'm a customer and I quote take an open source platform and build my own ERP, what happens when that institutional knowledge isn't documented properly, isn't retained properly? I still think there's an
We don't even have to
important
guess
place.
there, right? That we know, right? I mean, because we've been through that in whatever decade that was when people were doing that prior to the Great
Sure.
Plains, et cetera, right? We know that story, right?
Well, you can go out on LinkedIn today and you can read all sorts of, doom and gloom projections, the death of the billable hour, the death of ERP, build your own system. And I'm not a big believer in a lot of those
I'm with you.
doomsayers.
With you on the build your own ERP, and that's why I say we've been here before because
Yes.
I've been in these situations where a company's looking for an ERP specifically because they built their own, and now the person who knew it is retiring. And to your point, they're in trouble, right? And it's the build versus rent. And as a core piece of technology, especially from a security standpoint, data governance standpoint, there's a lot that goes into an ERP. And yeah, I'm not sold on the build your ERP itself. Where I am when I hear when you say technology moat is that the ERP to me is still the core. And I don't think it makes sense to build that from scratch, but it's the stuff that you start adding on. If a lot of times companies put Excel files out there to fill gaps. Well, AI to me is sort of a similar thing going on, except it's stronger because you can now communicate via API and kind of build around the ERP. Is that what you're seeing, in terms of a technology mode not being as strong of a
Yes.
wall as it used to be, something like that?
Yes, because remember I guess goes back to what I said a little bit earlier about the commoditization and democratization of the ERP platform. And I'm not I think it's interesting. ERP is one of those vocabulary words and acronyms that we're all very comfortable with. I think we always need to look at it through the prism of everything we're suggesting to a customer is to help them manage their business better. It's really business management software.
Yes,
So what are
yes.
we doing here? What are we using? What of the tool that we have, if I'm a value-added reseller and I've chosen this tool, whatever it is, to deliver these outcomes to the customer, it used to be that I was in complete control over how that tool was going to be, configured, customized, deployed, trained people on, educated people on. That moat has been compressed to almost nothing because people can go out and say, write me a reversing general ledger journal transaction process that I can give to my temporary worker that's going to tell them how to do that. The partner doesn't have to be used anymore. So that moat has been shrunk. I
I
want
see.
to integrate with this, or I want to do that. Now AI is going to have the ability to do a lot of those things that partners used to be able to do. So in my statement of work, I used to be able to build out this much for this much for this much for this. And there are elements in that statement of work that are really going to be compressed down to almost zero. Combine
Now I
that
hear you.
with combine that with how most people are using AI today, which is going out to the interwebs, going out to that large language model and say, tell me about this ERP platform, all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And is this a good fit for my business? And they gather all that information based on the data that's available publicly on the internet. And then they come up with the customer comes up with an idea that I should look at this company, and this company. And what I'm saying is that partners really need to lean into this. They're an industry expert in something. They choose the right platform, and then they take AI to enhance and amplify their industry expertise as it relates to the critical business processes and economic outcomes that need to come. That's where I think, to bring it home to kind of the beginning of this conversation, I think we're in the first inning, the first quarter, the first period, the opening act of what AI is going to become. You go out and look at go to your chat GPT, go to your AI agent and say, tell me what all the publishers are doing about AI, and you'll see them. They call them agents, they call them assistants, they call them co-pilots. depending
Yeah.
on where they are and who they are. And that's really where they are today. I've talked to many partners that I say, what are you guys doing with AI? And how are you going to build an AI practice around, what you're doing today? And a lot of them are building out report writing studios and prompts and things like that. And the AI agent is a large language model assistant that can find certain elements of data, certain documentation, but it really can't drive processes today and produce outcomes today.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
that's where I think if I'm a partner, I need to really start thinking about how am I going to tell my customer as a trusted business advisor how AI is going to be used to help them transform their business, not how it's going to help them better utilize the technology I'm selling or show them something, a shiny object over here, but how is AI going to produce real, tangible, measurable business outcomes? That's what I think AI needs to become. That's where partners need to focus on what they're doing. I mean,
And that's the case with any new technology, isn't it? I mean, it's always a mistake to just look at the technology and celebrate the technology itself. When we're in this business space that we're in, and we're all in different things. If we were in research at a university, we'd be looking about how to apply AI in that context. But our context is ERP systems or systems that run businesses, the back office and the front office. And we need to start with the outcomes that we want before we even care about the technology. And that's the same with any new technology, right? If we're talking about cloud ERP 10, 15 years ago, it's the same thing. I don't care unless you can show me how it improves business outcomes, right? And
right.
I think we're talking about the same thing with AI. It's nothing different in that sense, right?
We absolutely are. In fact, one of the things I've done over the years is kind of this practice owner executive workshop where we talk to owners about how to, if you're selling XYZ technology, I would suggest to owners that, and you're marketing yourself as a representative of XYZ technology. I said, guys, you're really kind of doing it wrong. I say with all humility, because these are successful business people. And I say it a bit hyperbolically, but really it's, I'm an expert in this, and I use these tools to deliver that expertise. And that's how
Yeah.
owners and partners need to think of themselves. We've been down this road before, Tim, and Gartner has the hype cycle, right? I hope everybody, or if you're not familiar with it, go take a look at it. Where the Gartner hype cycle, everybody starts at the far left of this wave that they have, where you kind of don't know what AI is. And then the media takes over, and the analysts take over, and the internet takes over, and you reach this point of what Gartner calls the point of inflated expectations. And that's kind of where we are with AI right now. Everybody thinks AI is the silver bullet, the magic answer to everything. And there's a lot of trepidation. There's been a lot of hesitancy on customers are waiting to kind of see what AI is going to be. Partners are kind of waiting to see what their technology providers are going to do. So we're kind of in this holding pattern with AI right now because nobody's really delivered on what AI is going to become. And we're going to slip into the next element.
Specifically in the enterprise you're talking about, I think, right?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
as it
I'm with you
relates
there.
to it relates to business management software or ERP
Yeah.
software.
Yeah.
We're all experiencing very positive things with AI in our personal lives. I am. I mean, I just had a fly fishing trip where I used AI to measure all the water flows and weather, and to kind of predict where we were going to do and how we were going to fish and travel and everything. And it worked out great. But that doesn't help me make something more efficiently, more productively, more profitably. It just makes my trip to Montana a little nicer. But back to the Gartner conversation, we've done this with blockchain, we've done this with IoT, we've done this with other technologies where we're going to slip into this trough of disillusionment. That's the Gartner term, where people are going to well, what the heck? Okay, I can ask it, who are my 10 customers that aren't paying on time? Or, what are the 5 things that I currently have out of stock? That's all good information, and we can get it more efficiently, more quickly using an agent or a bot. But is it really that much different than what we've had before? We've been doing workflow and queries and stuff for years. So what is AI ultimately going to become? I think we will get there eventually. Now, one of the big concerns I have with AI is data. Okay.
Wait, before you go there,
Yes, sir.
I'm checking something from last week. Give me a second here. So, one thing I've actually here's a good AI example.
Sure.
Basically, the way you just framed that is the way I was thinking until probably the last couple of months.
Okay.
So I've had multiple people tell me who have been into AI longer than I have. I ignored it. I'm a total curmudgeon when it comes to new tech. I don't care until I can like understand the value of it. So I didn't start picking this stuff up until January of this year. But I've heard multiple people over the last few years say this feels different. And it's only in the last 2 months where I'm now starting to think the same way. This does feel a little different. And I'm totally with you on the Gardner hype cycle. Like there's everything has followed that trend. And I think there's a little bit of a question mark now in my head whether this is going to follow the same trend. Just because it is different. And so when we talk about like where is AI actually at in enterprises right now, I'm pulling up last week's episode 178 with Sarat, and I'm asking what percentage of people are using AI at his company, because I remember him saying a high number. So what you can do, one thing I like about doing the live broadcast on YouTube is you can pull up a YouTube video and there's an ask button now where you just chat with Gemini in case you can't remember something, right? Yeah. So I just asked about the episode and I thought it was a high number. He says about half of his organization is using AI in some fashion. And it even puts like a link when you do the ask button on YouTube to the actual spot in the video. So you can listen to him actually say it. You're not just relying on AI. And so that things like that, it's only the last couple months where I'm like, I'm starting to see it like, oh, people are actually doing real stuff. We're just, I'm still sort of like a little behind. I'm behind that, but I guess, so I'm just sort of balancing the point of like, it hasn't quite hit. I think it actually has hit in some places. And because it's moving so fast, it's just going to be really interesting to see if this really actually follows the typical hype cycle curve, because I'm actually being a total like curmudgeon, skeptical, wired that way naturally. I'm starting to wonder, and specifically, I'm starting to wonder because the frontier models, specifically OpenAI and Anthropic, those two companies are releasing stuff so quickly. And I'm not just like talking about news feeds. I'm talking about stuff I'm seeing in the applications on my computer. And I'm starting to just, I'm curious too, what you're hearing from partners, if they're really thinking that the ERP publishers are going to deliver the AI stuff, or if they're just going to be getting it from Anthropic and OpenAI and just having it communicate with the ERPs over the APIs. They're just, yeah, it's not, it's just different than like the .com wave. It's different than the move to cloud wave in that it's not like this one bulge that's kind of moving through the Gardner hype cycle. It's sort of like just these multiple things that are moving through it, and they're at different stages. I don't know. I don't know if any of that makes sense. What's your thoughts?
No, it makes complete sense. And I want to, first of all, you're not a curmudgeon, Tim. You're a cynic, and that's one of the things I really like about you. I think I mentioned that or another way to think about it, being a cynic, is I think you're very objective, and I think that's what draws people to you is you're clear-minded and you're objective about what you see, and you're open to say, maybe this, or maybe I thought this way before.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. First, I am not suggesting that AI is going to go into this trough and we're never going to see it again. And it's I believe that the future for AI is important to customers, it's important to partners, and it's important to publishers. And I think because it's important to all three of those people, the trough is going to be there. It's probably not going to be as deep or as long as some of the other technology bubbles have been.
We just don't know, right? That's what, like, for me to actually question it is surprising to me, because normally I'm just like, oh yeah, this is not that big of a deal.
I think the key to business value with AI is certainly the APIs, but it's the data. Okay. For
Yeah.
example,
So
we
go to the data. All right. I think
yeah.
API data is, to me, very similar conversations. Yeah. Go there. Sorry.
So if I'm asking um, if I'm asking to learn something in AI, but I can only see this much data, that's what it's going to tell me. And
Right.
the example that we had a user group conference this past April in Atlanta, and we're big into manufacturing at Infor and shop floor management and things like that. And the AI model that I see is the shop floor technology that takes data from a machine. Okay, number of RPMs, temperature, fluid levels, kind of this diagnostic that's on your machine. Okay, and your MRP and your scheduler says okay, and people will laugh that know me. I'm Schmuckatelli and Sons, and I'm a left-handed monkey wrench manufacturer. Those are my default companies and my default product, and I need to make 5,000 left-handed monkey wrenches for this company, and I'm going to buy this much raw material. I'm going to put it on this production line. But the data on those machines is telling me it's going to take me 1,000 hours to produce those 1,000 left-handed monkey wrenches. But this machine, based on current temperature and RPM and user comments, I'm not going to be able to get 1,000 hours on that run. Okay, I'm going to have to move it to another production line to get my result that I want. And who are the customers that are lined up there? And who are the operators who are there? So if I don't have human capital management data, if I don't have actual machine data, if I don't have purchasing data, if I don't have raw material quality control, quality assurance data, if I can't bring all that together into an AI agent that's going to tell me, hey, Kent, you can't run that on that line. And here's danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger. That's the type of value I think that AI can and will produce ultimately, as long as you have the right data and context of that data. It's available for your AI platform to process against, to then produce a result that people can act upon. Will we ever get to the point where we're comfortable enough that we let the software act on our behalf? Maybe, maybe not, depending on what that is. But that's the vision, I think, that AI, that's the power of AI that I see in the future. We're not there today, but I think we're going to get there. And when I talk to partners, publishers, partners that are creating intellectual property against that, this is where they're driving to. They want to be somebody that says AI isn't some report writing mechanism, some assistant, some what I call a hyper caffeinated intern that can gather all this information and give you, stuff that you can think about.
It
But
is.
really,
It's just there's more value than that, is what you're saying, right? Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not what they're
we're
focused
in
on.
Act One. We're in the hyper
Yeah.
caffeinated intern Act One.
Yeah. I
I
like
think
to
we're going to
say,
wrap it.
I like to say the intern who's hopped up on meth, but yeah, same idea.
Okay. Okay. I'll stick with caffeine. Or we'll meet in the middle
Yeah,
and say Red
caffeine's
Bull.
probably better.
Yeah, we'll meet in the middle and say Red Bulls.
Just because the hallucination part of it. Yeah. I think. Anyways,
Exactly.
yeah.
Being the only one in North America that has never seen an episode of Breaking Bad, I can't. That doesn't resonate with me as much
I
as it
think
may
you're
with
better for it, by the
with
way.
other members of the audience. But I think, I look at AI through kind of certainly I look at it through the technology prism. And I think as partners and in publishers, we always have to think customer first. So if I'm going to introduce this technology to a customer, what's the impact and value it's going to have for that customer? That's the first prism I look at it through. I think we're in a spot now where it's interesting. It can improve efficiencies, it can improve education, it can improve time to value, but it doesn't really produce measurable economic impacts yet. That doesn't mean we should wait. We should embrace it. We should get comfortable with it, and we should continue to push it as quickly as we can. But it's going to be based on, do I have the right data strategy? In
And
other
so
words,
on that data point, I'm curious your response to this image here. So I've been I got on the pre-release list for a book from a guy I know named Rob Colley. And Rob wrote the most popular Power BI book ever. He's the one who got me into Power BI. We both happened to be living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. I was involved with the world's first Power BI user group that he started. Anyway, so my point is I know Rob, and I just love his stuff. And he wrote this Power BI book 15 years ago that like made over $1 million in sales. And just his writing style, he's really good at communicating technical stuff in a way that reads like a fiction novel. And now 15 years later, he's now written a second book, and it's all on AI stuff. And so I've been making my way through it and loving it. And I'm going to put up on the screen an image. Hopefully Rob won't mind here. I'll put a link to his book in the episode page, but here's an image from the book. And I like this point that the chapter is titled, AI has a PhD in everything but your business. And he makes the point that the pre-training, there's actually two pieces going on when you're asking an LLM something these days. And even this has changed rapidly in the past few months. So it used to be much more that it was all about the pre-training knowledge. So when ChatGPT first launched, you could ask it stuff, but you couldn't ask it who won the World Cup game yesterday, because it had no ability to access the web. That's all changed like so fast. So now you can actually watch it when it's responding. It'll know when to call a web search versus when to just use its pre-training knowledge. And the pre-training knowledge is like, it's a cutoff. The whole LLM it doesn't change over time. There's this big, massive thing called the LLM. It's a bunch of matrix values and that are stored in the cloud somewhere. But so like if you ask it something about the history of the Roman Empire, it's going to be able to just use its pre-training knowledge. And that's massive, as you can see on the screen. But if it doesn't have that, it now has the ability to do web search. So it's like a modern Google search. It's going out, but it's also reasoning over that. So it's combining the pre-training knowledge with the web search to deliver incredible results. But then once you get into the business, it just drops off the cliff because, to your point, it doesn't have the data. It doesn't know your business. And also,
and that's
go ahead.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about, Tim. That little gray ball there needs to be the next pillar, and it needs to be almost as high as pre-training knowledge and web search. Those need to be equal in their value that people are searching against, or AI-ifying against, so they can get the right business outcome. And we're lacking on the business side right now.
And that's where things have changed for me just in the last couple of months, maybe more accurately the last month, where, and actually, maybe it's even the last week since having Surratt on. I think it's a little more than that for me, but I'm starting to see that it actually is happening. I'm just starting to hear about it, where businesses are actually figuring this out. And in AI language, do you agree that the AI word for it is context? It's all about being able to call the LLM and wrap around it the appropriate context. You're using the word data, but I think we're talking about the same thing there, right?
Yes, your data needs to be consistent. It needs to be contextualized. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be secure. And it needs to be as complete as possible as it relates to your business. And context is key. The simple example is, we've all experienced this. Let's use IBM as an example, as a customer name. Their international business machines, they're IBM Incorporated, they're IBM, they're I.B.M. You have 5 different records of that customer that aren't consistently contextualized, and I'm pulling data against that inconsistent title. We call them customers, we call them clients, we call them accounts. If you don't have a consistency of data structure, data context, it's going to hallucinate, it's going to give you bad data, and it's going to make bad decisions. So that's where data strategy has to be thought of first and foremost. And again, if today there are publishers that they take all of their support and help documentation, and you can do an AI assistant against all of that, and you can get it's a valuable tool and great information to remember how to do something or get help on something. It's all incredibly valuable, but it's not where the business needs to go. And that's where, as I look at this through the AI prism, this is a great image. And what was the gentleman's name again? I've already forgotten.
Rob Colley, and then I just put the website up for the book, fairgamebook.ai.
Okay, well, yeah. So Rob,
Yeah, no,
you're exactly right, Rob. Thank you for sharing this image.
he does a great job of explaining it. Yeah, and just the way he walks through a topic, he's just really good at it. But
Yeah.
I think where we just neither one of us knows to what extent that pillar is being built and how fast it's going to take. I am starting to see it though. Like I was totally in the it's not happening club until the last month or two, where I'm starting to see, oh, it actually is happening. And even the different tools that are emerging to make it possible. It's just fascinating to watch. But forgetting the tech side, I'm curious your side from the business side.
Sure.
Like forget about how we do it. Let's talk about what we do. What are you hearing from partners and thinking yourself in terms of what are the areas that make sense to start looking at how to apply an LLM model to that situation?
So it's really interesting because when I talk to partners, and again, I'm not going to betray any confidences, or I'm not going to mention anybody by name.
Yeah, give a total generalization. Yeah.
It's a total generalization. But when I talk to partners, their concern is for their business right now. Their business.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is concern. You're hearing a lot of concern right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because,
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is, and this is my theory. This is something I believe in, and it's being validated by partners. And the analogy I like to use is, and people have heard me say this before, I think, is like, I happen to own a Honda CRV. That's the car that I own. But Toyota RAV4 is a great car. The Subaru Outback is a great car. The Ford Escape, Hyundai makes one. Kia makes one. There's a whole bunch of great mid-sized 5-passenger SUV type cars that you can invest in that will do the job for you. And it becomes a matter of what color, what price, it is becoming a commodity. Or cell phone plans. You can be AT&T, you can be T-Mobile, depending on the spokesperson you like or whatever. It becomes a price decision. So the technology is being commoditized. And as that happens, customers go out and do all their research, and they come back and say, it's basically all the same, guy. How much are you going to charge me for this? Then,
so you're talking about AI right now, or are you talking more about ERP publisher?
I'm talking about ERP platform.
Okay.
The next element of that is AI. Okay. As a partner, I'm seeing AI. You can go out and read it. Every consulting organization, from the largest to the smallest, is going to get pressured on their billable hours, their billable rate, because AI can do so much of what typical systems integrators or value-added resellers used to do. So they're seeing significant pressure on the price of the technology they sell and on the services revenue they can generate, in support of that technology. So they look at AI and they say, okay, here's an opportunity for me to backfill some of that revenue stream by adding value to the customer that can't easily be replaced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So I'm going to become an expert in AI as it relates to economic outcome or business outcomes that AI can produce. If I'm going to do that, I have to find a technology platform that has a comprehensive data strategy, that supports, complex business processes, that produces multiples of business outcomes. That's where partners are saying, I'm going to hang my hat on AI. I just don't know where it's going yet. So publishers have a responsibility to say, here's our data strategy, here's our business process strategy, here's how AI goes across those, and here's how you, Mr. Partner or Ms. Partner, can generate a recurring revenue business model on AI, where we can very quickly sit down and go through a discovery. Hey, Tim, tell me about the business challenge that you have. Process it through AI, generate an outcome, go to the data, and produce a workflow, a query, a process, an action that's going to say, here's how I can improve your inventory turns. Here's how I can reduce your on-hand inventory. Here's how I can more aggressively manage your suppliers. Here's how I can do these things utilizing all the data and this AI agent to produce that outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't care about the how. Give me the outcome. That's what I've been wanting to hear more about from people. So
right. So
remind me on the Infor side, is Infor mostly focused on distribution, manufacturing? Are there two? Give me the lay of the land for Infor, because I don't know much of the Infor space.
Okay. So Infor, we have two primary, I would say primary business lines that partners can be interested in. Cloud Suite Industrial, which is the old Sightline product, which Infor purchased and then completely re-architected to be a multi-tenant cloud SaaS solution that really focuses in on industrial manufacturing. Really good in aerospace and defense, industrial manufacturing, food and beverage, core manufacturing processes. It's got human capital management, it's got WMS, it's got CPQ, it's got all of that stuff. It's got that data repository that allows for a broader spectrum of AI capability.
When you say human capital management, like it's its own HR suite with payroll and all that built into it?
Correct.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that attracted me to Infor is, again, I'm going to put Infor to the side for just a second, looking at it through the prism of a partner. I have a choice as a partner to continue to go what I would call the volume route, which is, the commodity SMB ERP.
Wait, before we go there, let's get the Infor lay of the land a little more first. So this is actually what I put on my ERPseal.com homepage in terms of like options of ERPs to select from. Could you let's go through this. So you mentioned the Cloud Suite Industrial. That's the old Sightline. Fact check this data here. Do I need to make any corrections to this? What was the other major one? And then what else? How does the rest of this look to you?
Well, again, we have a community of products and platforms that we represent. M3 is our enterprise play. That's the SAP Oracle play. Okay. So the ones that I focus in on and the ones that I'm beyond buzzword compliant on are going to be Cloud Suite Distribution and Cloud Suite Industrial. And that's where I think the play is for the traditional value-added reseller that wants to own the market from 0 to 500 million in revenue, 0 to 200, everything belongs to the channel. If the partner brings the deal 0 to 500, they own it. So that's really where Infor. So the two I would focus in on if I were a partner, would be Cloud Suite Industrial and Cloud Suite Distribution.
So number 2 and 3 on this list. Okay, so those are the two primary ones. And also those are inventory heavy organizations, manufacturers and distributors. Okay, makes sense. So that gives me the good context. Then, all right, so then you're talking about the go ahead and talk about then the VAR then in the context of number 2 and 3 on this list.
Yeah, so if I'm a partner, I have a choice. Do I want to be what I would call a volume VAR? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's a right or a wrong decision here. But if I'm going to be a volume-driven business model, I'm going to have to get really good at marketing this thing, selling this thing, delivering this thing, because I'm going to have to do a lot of them, because I'm going to be price sensitive, price competitive, and every time I'm in a deal, there's going to be 4 or 5 other players in that deal.
And specifically, you mean like implementations, like you're going to have to grab new customers, onboard them onto this ERP product. That's the volume, right?
Correct. Okay. So you're going to have, and again, there's going to be a lot of competition in those deals.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because if I'm looking at vendor A, I'm also going to be looking at vendor B, C, D, and E. Okay.
That's the commodity point you were making, right?
The business processes are going to be less complex. Okay. They're going to be the smaller, less complex distributors, the light assemblers, light manufacturers, don't have as much compliance or regulatory requirements, don't have as deep a bill of material, they don't have as much. That's just not who they are. So, and I don't mean to be it's like making a chicken sandwich. Now, I know that sounds harsh, and I'm not trying to be harsh here, but it's, Chick-fil-A makes a great chicken sandwich. So does Zaxby's. So does Bojangles. So does, and you got to sell a lot of them if I'm gonna do well. But if the line is really long at this place, I can go to that place, or I can choose as a partner that I'm really going to become an expert at a certain industry that's going to have a lot of complex business processes that my customer is going to rely on me as a trusted business advisor, not because of what I know about the software, that I can configure it and implement it and demo it better than anybody else. But I understand how that software or that platform produces the outcomes and KPIs and economic impact that your industry requires. If I can become an industry expert with a complex customer, I have a much more durable, sustainable, and I would suggest politely profitable business partner than something that can be replaced as a commodity. So what attracted me to Info?
This is my notepad on this side of the screen, by the way. I'm not multitasking
Okay.
here. So your first category you would summarize as volume driven. Is the phrase for the
Yes.
second one you would summarize it as industry expert?
As value driven.
Value driven. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And volume is, I'm really good at delivering this technology for you. Value is, I understand your industry so well that this is the right platform for you, and here are the outcomes that I can produce for you. Now, if I'm going to get to a very complex customer that has sophisticated processes, that has certain outcomes, I need a very comprehensive suite of business processes. I need a very tight and comprehensive data strategy. And then I have to have an AI vision that's going to bring those two things together. Okay.
I want to make a point on your industry thing first. So we actually just saw this in the past, actually this week. So, there's always mergers and acquisitions stuff going on in this mid-market ERP space. But one from this week was that Acumatica bought a company called Vertrax, which is a software solution for fuel and energy distribution industry. And so I think you see it on both the services side and you see it on the software side. Here's the example of it. The Vertrax, their value was driven by really honing in and focusing in on that specific industry. So I think that pairs well with what you're saying here, but you're saying it on the services side with a partner. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's, for as long as I've been in this industry, we've talked about verticalization and specialization. And for years, I won't say partners have resisted that, Tim, but there's been so much value in just knowing the software and being the keeper of all the knowledge on how to implement and configure and deliver the software, that not that you didn't have to be an industry expert, but you could make money on the other things. Those other things are now being compressed.
That's that moat that's shrinking. Okay, I'm with you now. Yeah. Yep.
So it's like the other vision I have is, I'm holding this balloon, right? And I'm getting squeezed over here on software revenue, and I'm getting squeezed over here on services revenue. What's going to pop out?
Yeah.
Well, what pops out is AI, and what pops out.
I like that analogy.
AI,
That's a good analogy.
How does AI drive value? How can I create an AI practice that's going to help my customers and help me as a partner?
I like that analogy. I'm gonna see if I can get ChatGPT to write up create a visual image on that. I think that's a really good analogy because of just overall philosophically, the idea that organizations are never staffed to do everything themselves. I don't care if you're talking about why you hire a managed services firm for your IT, to why you hire a services company to do your custodial work instead of hiring an employee to do that, right? You can see it all across a business. You never staff everything internally. It's for liability reasons. It's for just not wanting to have that expertise in-house reason. And so I love that point. That's always there, just as an economy that still at this point is still human controlled. And that's where the AI fears are. If we ever flip to an economy that's AI controlled, which is, I see more and more is possible, I'm going to die on the battlefield of never allowing that to happen. That's my stance. But as long as we're a human controlled economy, and we are for now, for the foreseeable future, you're always going to have roles that humans need to play. And so I love that when you
Oh,
grab the balloon, there's some other area that pops up. I love that. That's a great analogy. So
well,
yeah,
I do believe, and I'm with you, Tim, and maybe I'm closer to the end of what my active involvement in the technology space, although I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. I love what I do, and having these, making friends and going out to meet new people in the neighborhood, as it were, going back to my earliest days at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where my dad was stationed, not in the prison, at the Army Command and Staff College. But anyway,
that's the only thing I knew
digress.
there. I knew it from the Army.
Yeah, so I digress.
Oh, Army prison. Okay, no. Now I know what you're
Yes.
talking about. Yes, that is what I was thinking.
So I think what's important for a partner is what am I going to do? How am I going to? And I believe that artificial intelligence is going to be a big part of the successful partner of the future. How they can, because, and again, I go back to Candace's post where trust, becomes that's what we're really talking about here. It's no longer technology. Your moat now becomes your industry expertise, your trusted business advisor relationship, the outcomes you can produce, the economic impact you can have for that industry. That becomes your moat. That becomes almost irreplaceable.
And I would argue it always has been. I would argue that it always
it
has
is,
been. But
but we've never. But AI is now requiring us, because AI is replacing so much of what we used to think was our moat. Okay, AI is now amplifying what we should be: trusted business advisor, business outcome drivers for the industry that we choose. We can't be everything to everybody. We don't have enough time in the day. We can't hire enough people to do that. We have to specialize in something. I don't care if it's inventory. I don't care. Whatever it is, that's what you got to hang your hat on. Because that's what people are searching for. Nobody wants to know. And again, I go back to, I can remember when the software used to be shipped to us as partners, and we drove out to the customer with our little shiny discs or our little floppy disks and put them in the magic cup holders and hit run. And we don't do that anymore, and we're never going to do that again. So artificial intelligence is going to be important, but it's never going to replace actual intelligence. We're going to need both AIs. How I use artificial intelligence with my actual intelligence.
I'm starting to see where that might not be the case anymore in the last couple of months.
No. Because
I honestly am.
Well, there are some. Sadly, there's some highly amplified examples of where AI is. Who remembers
but we'll see.
Episode?
We don't know what the future holds, right? Yeah. We don't know.
Another. Who remembers the Office episode where Michael was driving with, I think it was Jim, and they were following the GPS directions, in the car, and he drove into a lake. Okay, because that's what the GPS said to do. Keep driving straight ahead, and we can't let AI do that to us, but we do have to use AI. Okay, take the AI platform, push it against a contextualized, secure, complete data set to produce decisions and processes that deliver outcomes for customers. And again, looking at it through the prism of a partner, if I want to have a durable, sustainable, profitable business where I can sell, service, and support, I think the future for partners is in the more complex customer, because I think the more commodity technology is going to continue to face that price pressure, services pressure, and then I've either got to do a whole bunch of those just to maintain. And Candace has a great thing. I keep going back to Candace's article because it was scary and how much it mirrored some of the things I've been thinking about as it relates to partners. I can't run fast enough on that treadmill.
Right.
Okay. I got to get off the treadmill and start thinking about what's my next act as a partner. And I think
and I would say it's the same thing if you're going to try to compete with AI on certain tasks, right? And maybe that is what Candace's point was. Like, you just can't compete with that hopped up on caffeine /meth intern that works 24/7 on those tasks. And even if they do it 95% as well as you would do it, it doesn't matter. I mean, the speed you just can't keep up on. Yeah. So you pivot. And I think the good news is there's a lot of fear right now. But to me, the good news is for an experienced partner. And this is where I think things are different with this round of tech than in prior rounds of tech. This is my theory. Could be wrong. I think the experienced partner is actually in a much better position than they realize they are. The ones who are really struggling right now are the college students who are graduating because they're trying to find entry level jobs, and that layer is where AI is just mopping the floor right now. It's with that entry level stuff. But it's all about knowing the questions to ask and knowing, just having the experience in the industry to know how to bring the AI into that industry. And that's where I think the experienced partner who's been around for a while is actually in a very good position. And bringing up this image again, who's going to help build the circle on the far right that's really small? I think it's the industry partners. And what the opportunity that I see is that they can come in now and not only provide services, they can now provide software. Software typically has been super expensive to build, especially in a secure way, but AI is changing all of that. And even if you're not bringing in like a built from the ground up software solution, if you keep your intelligence gated and private, and then people are renting that, so they're renting the LLM for the industry, and you have a way to bring in the company's specific data around that, you're now able to deliver a more of a recurring revenue stream that's not just tied to people's hours, right? So I think bottom line, these are just some wild theories, but bottom line, I think the experienced partner is in actually a much better position than they think they are or realize they are. Now, how exactly you pivot, what exactly you go to, there's some scary questions around that. But just from a confidence standpoint, I think they're actually in a really good position, much better position than the person just finishing college.
I do agree with what you just said. I do believe
give me your honest thoughts. Yeah, what's your honest thoughts on that?
I think there is an opportunity for partners. Okay, I think there's an opportunity with AI for partners right now. It's going to require some self-reflection. I mean, they're going to have to get off the treadmill and look in the mirror and say, okay, what's next? And I think, well, I do believe there's a strong opportunity for them. I also think that window is closing. I mean, the best time to make a change is when you don't have to change, okay? Or you still got the financial flexibility to pivot. For example, the example I use, and I'm going to put my Inforce shirt on here for just a second.
Yeah, please do. I wanted to ask more about that.
When I talk to partners, and I'm a partner business development manager for Infor. And when I talk to partners and they say, okay, Kent, great. I mean, why should I be interested in Infor?
Yeah.
I say there's a couple of reasons. One, we have a really cool story around AI and data strategy. Our AI platform happens to be called Velocity Suite. It's based on complex business processes that goes against a very secure and contextualized data, what we call a data lake. And it's what attracted me to Infor, because I think it is a great opportunity for partners. And partners will say to me, gee, Ken, I don't know if I can't necessarily absorb a whole new, ERP platform today because I'm doing this and this. And I say, I understand, but let's look at a piece of your business. And the piece I point them to is aerospace and defense. Okay, if I'm going to go after an aerospace and defense customer, and I'm not talking about Lockheed or Raytheon or Grumman, that's not. I'm talking about the subcontractors that feed those $50 to $250 million manufacturers that have to build the components that go into the defense product that a Raytheon, a Grumman, and a Lockheed might have, satellite or whatever it might be. They have the same requirements from FedRAMP, GovCloud, DFRS Financial, CMMC, ITAR. Okay, what if you've got a partner that checks all those boxes and has all the business processes capabilities and has the AI engine to go against that? Start there, okay? Just start in that small pie. Your sales cycle will be shorter. You won't be competing against the known universe of ERP platforms. you can probably build a business to start with. And then as it grows, then you can start to make some decisions on what I might want to do 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 60 months from now, as opposed to just saying, I'm just going to go all in on a new platform and be a generalist across a broad swath of or spectrum of industries. I don't think that's I don't think we want to do the shotgun approach. We want to do a very targeted, very specific approach. And that's one example where you can bring together industry expertise, foundational functional capabilities, regulatory and compliance capabilities, and AI. And it says, okay, I can check a lot of boxes there. And maybe I can, without betting my whole business on where I'm going to go, this could point me in a new direction. That's where I think partners need to be thinking, as opposed to just, well, I'm just going to stay on this pick your publisher treadmill and run as fast as I can and try to run faster. You're not going to get there.
Quick time check. Are you able to go another 15, 20 minutes?
Well, you've probably sensed, Tim, that I could go for another hour. Do
you have another meeting is what I'm really asking. What's next on your schedule?
No. This was, I circled the 17th. I've been pacing around my house most of the morning getting ready for this, Tim.
All right, good. I love that. Funny, yeah. So the reason why I ask is I'd love to dive into this. So I know nothing. Sure. I know not nothing. I know very little about the Infor space. So you mentioned this Infor Velocity Suite. So if I pull this back up on the screen again, what I hear you saying is Infor actually has built this, at least a version of it.
Yeah, that circle is more of a pillar, okay?
Yeah.
With Infor, because we've got the data.
Yeah.
We've got the comprehensive, contextualized, secure data. We have what we call an industry process catalog. We have all the business processes for the industries we've chosen as a platform to be experts in, and then we're applying AI against that data, those processes to produce the outcomes. So are we where we're ultimately going to be? No, but I think we're well along the path.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So I think we can leave. I think both of us can leave the whole we're not there yet thing behind and say, actually, we are there. Like we at least are. We have, and it's crazy how fast things have moved, because what got my attention in January of this year was OpenClaw, and basically the things turned the corner towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. I've heard this from several people that, one, the AI became capable enough, and then two, the tooling around it now gives it arms and legs to do stuff. And so it's just crazy. This stuff has all happened in the last 6 months. But I think what we're saying here, at least, the world you're living in with Infor, it is there. You at least have a version of this where you can bring your data in a secure fashion that also has the context of the industries that you work in, and you can deliver AI benefits in an organization.
Yeah, and we have some customers that are willing to speak to that effect. Now, you had mentioned something. Pardon me?
No, super interesting. Yeah, if you have any like customer story links or something I can put on the episode page, you can send me those afterwards. That'd be great.
Okay, I'll share them with you. And again, LinkedIn is a great spot. I mean, if you go to Infor Manufacturing and you do a Velocity Suite search, I think you can see some really good things out there. Yeah, is it where it's ultimately going to be? No, but it's one of the things that was most attractive to me about Infor. Again, looking at it through the prism of a partner, I'm getting squeezed. Yeah. I've got this bubble of AI.
Yeah.
Can I build a practice?
Yeah.
And we're developing some tools for partners that allow them to then use this tool called Velocity Suite, go to the customer, sit with them, go through a sprint methodology where we discover, we scope, we build, and we go from there. We showed earlier this year, you hear a lot about headless ERP, today, or, where we've actually got examples where users of Infor are interacting with the system in a completely different user interface. So the user interface now becomes as fluid and dynamic as you need it to be. And that's where partners can start to use the Infor platform, the AI platform, to develop intellectual property and solutions and develop a business that they retain control over to, again, create a durable, sustainable, profitable business model. That's
Let's talk about the partner add-on in a minute, but before we go there, let's talk more just about the core Infor piece. So tell me more about what attracted you initially to the Infor Velocity Suite. Like what were some of the specific things that caught your attention?
Well, first, I think, what attracted me to Infor was this theory that I have. And again, I could be wrong. But this talking to partners, their big concern is, I can be replaced pretty quickly with some of the platforms that they represent today. Okay. Because there's so many partners and the functionality is so similar that customers are going to say, there's not a big difference between vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, partner X, partner Z, partner Y, partner Z. So I'm just going to move things around and I could be replaced. So I don't have a very durable recurring revenue stream today in some areas. So what attracted me to Infor was their ability to service complex customers. Okay. Where if I'm willing to invest the time and become an industry expert, deliver my industry expertise, I'm less replaceable. I've decommoditized myself. I have a more durable recurring revenue stream that my business can be built upon. That was the first thing that attracted me to Infor.
Okay.
As I dug deeper, I said, okay, guys, as this AI thing comes to fruition, tell me about your data strategy, because I don't want to just be going to the internet to get information. Tell me about how much data I have, how secure, how contextualized it is. Okay. Oh, pretty good answer there. All right. Tell me about the tools and what you're doing around AI to deliver outcomes. That's pretty cool. All right. This is a great message that I can take to my friends. And I think of them as friends. I mean, in the partner community, and say, guys, you should look at this. Okay. You should protect your flank. If you're a value added reseller and you're getting squeezed in all these areas by your publisher, by your customer, by competitors, what are you going to do next? Complex customer, solid data, outcome oriented AI. Check, check, check. Infor Cloud Suite Industrial, Cloud Suite Distribution affords those. And again, it's multi-tenant, it's SaaS, it's cloud, it's
so it's real. The pillar is built. Yeah.
Yes.
Like Acumatica is still kind of building out their AI infrastructure. And so as I'm just starting to become more familiar with the other mid-market ERP products, I'm curious to hear where they're at. So it sounds like, this is not a beta version. You've got actual live customer stories on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, we're just starting to scratch the surface.
Yeah, everyone is. It's only in the last 6 months that the stuff even existed. It's crazy.
Well, but to me, and again, I just think if I'm a partner, and I've said this now 5 or 6 times, durable, sustainable, profitable. Okay. My recurring revenue stream has to be durable. It's got to be able to withstand, people pecking away at me. Okay. My margin and, sustainable. Are my services revenue, is it sustainable? Okay. Do I have an avenue to create more recurring revenue, to keep my business as highly valued as I can make it and as sustainable as I can make it? We check a lot of boxes. If I'm a partner, that's what attracted me, and again, we have a really good target addressable market for partners. We do have a direct sales force, but again, our partners are growing 27% year over year. Our partner bookings are growing really, really quickly. We've got a great partner team headed up by Selena Butler and Kari Finnegan and Reed Berggren and Brian Peters that understand the value of partners. So for me, it's like coming home. Okay, this is a group and an organization that appreciates partners. Our CEO, Kevin Samuelson, is on the record saying, partners are really critical in the future of where Infor is going. So that is comforting to me, because I think partners, as I said earlier, I know it's only been an hour. It seems like it's probably a week to you. When I said I do believe partners are the key to delivering technology successfully to the market, because that's what customers want.
What was your last one? Durable, sustainable, and what?
Profitable.
Profitable. Okay.
Yeah. If I'm
On
an
the tech
owner,
side,
yeah, on the
yeah,
tech side, sorry.
yeah. So on the tech side, no, I'm really intrigued by the velocity thing and what caught your attention. So this stuff is moving so fast, right? So I'm not expecting you to be an expert on this at all. But coming back to the point about outcomes, right? The more I've been drinking from the AI fire hose the last 7 months, 6.5, it really smells very similar to me to business intelligence stuff that I've been around a lot longer, in the sense that uh, what do I do with the business intelligence solution? I take the data from the ERP system, which is designed in a normalized database structure that's designed for getting data into the database. And then I put it in a structure that's more designed for getting insights out of the data. And it seems like a similar thing going on to me with AI, especially if you look at it from like, I want to have the AI answer questions for me. It's very similar to BI in that context. So I'm curious, from your standpoint, do you see it that way from a ask questions about standpoint? And if so, what other things? I know everyone's talking about having agents on top of it as well that do stuff for you, but what are the other outcomes? Like, what are the outcomes that people are actually doing with the M4 Velocity Suite?
So again, we've got a great, and I'll send it to you. I mean, we've got a great video of what people are doing with it and some of the processes that people are using it for. But it's the ability to interrupt your business and say, Ken, this production order is at risk because we just got a shipping update from that vendor that
Yeah.
it's not going to be delivered and it's not going to be able to go through QA in time to make this. Here are the 4 vendors that you can consider with shipping times and price points and what have you. So it's that kind of outcome that AI is producing. It's not run me a report that says,
Right.
tell me this. It's the platform coming back to you saying, hey Tim, hey Kent, wake up. This production run is at risk because of this data that has come into my purview. Okay. And oh, by the
Great
way,
use
it's
case.
not just,
Yeah. Great use case. So I would call that like the data analyst role. And here's where I think people coming right out of college are experiencing that, like, they're suffering more than the experienced partner right now. And this is a great example of it. So the LLMs are good at delivering information. So to me, it's very similar to a traditional data alert that you could have done as an email alert, writing SQL code, or you could have done it in a BI tool. But the LLMs just do it better, and they kind of just do it automatically without you even creating the alert, right? And here's where that industry knowledge comes in. Where Infor is building that IP around specific industries with the business processes, so it knows when something smells off for that particular
correct.
industry. And then the partner, I think, needs to come in, I think this is what you're saying, and refine it further so that it's not doesn't just have the general industry knowledge, but now more and more you're feeding it with the business knowledge so it gets smarter. And here's where I would call it an entry level business analyst / data analyst. Like, instead of hiring someone out of college now to do that work for you, the LLM just does it, where it's looking for anomalies, it's looking for things that need to change, and it's just happening automatically. That's super interesting. So you're actually seeing that happen in the real world with Infor customers.
Correct. And that's where I think, that's where I think Infor is starting, to that this where it's where we have decided that in complex customers with economic impact and business outcomes is where we want our AI focus to be.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool. That's
For
cool.
the industries that we're good at. We don't want to be a generalist. We don't want
Yeah,
to have, you know, we don't want to be just a we don't want our partners just to be able to get good at writing certain prompts that produce retroactive information or education that will help you become more efficient or do this. I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but if I hear one more business case about closing the books faster,
right.
ugh,
Right.
you
You're
know
not
I,
talking about an industry thing. You're just talking about a job function. You're not differentiated. And that's one thing
correct.
I've always, that's one thing I've always had the impression of for Infor. Again, not like knowing it super well, but I've always had the impression that Infor did a good job of stay in your lane, bro. Like, so
Yep.
use that phrase, like the distribution, manufacturing, you mentioned those as the two premier product pillars that you recommend. They've always been good at doing that, as opposed to like, I'm always critical of Sage historically. Sage, they just kind of acquire a bunch of products, although I think they've done a better job recently with Intact and honing in on the construction industry with their Timberline focus. But yeah, I think Infor has always done a good job of staying in those two industries. And then you've gone even more micro than that when you're talking about aerospace and things like that. And that's, you really need that in the age of AI, more so than
Yes.
ever, because of how fast it's moving. I'm starting to understand, the picture that you're painting here. It's making sense.
There's a duality to AI in that it can amplify your expertise and experience. It can also amplify your shortcomings.
Sure. It's a
AI
magnifying
can
glass. Yeah.
AI can magnify and expedite a crappy process faster than anybody's business.
Sure.
If you've got it really dialed in and locked in, AI can make it even better. So
Sure.
if I'm a partner, where do I want to go?
Sure.
That's the challenge that I'm saying to partners, and the worry I have for partners is that they're going to get, they're going to hear the siren song of AI as it relates to their current technology, and that's going to limit them to a certain extent. So I think get off the treadmill, take a breath, and say, all right, because as an older person who's returned to the gym, it's all about it's not all, if you want to stay in shape, it's not all about the cardio. You do have to pick things up and put them down and do some strength training. So you're going to have to exercise. You're going to have to exercise your industry expertise muscles, and you're going to have to get strong. Okay.
I'm laughing because my friend, that's his phrase for the gym. Going to the place where you pick up heavy things and put them back down again.
Well, there's a commercial out there. I forget the gym is, I pick things up, I put them down, I pick things up. But yeah, you do have to exercise your muscles. You can't just run
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
Okay. And I
I
think
like that. That's good.
I think from an industry expertise standpoint and picking your lane on what choosing to be what I'm going to be good at.
Yeah.
What
Which is
business
scary.
outcomes. That's
It's
right.
scary
It is scary.
to narrow yourself in on that, right? Yeah, but it's the way to go. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it 1,000,000,000 years ago, you could be a generalist because again,
Mm-hmm.
the value you had to customers and your expertise was in your knowledge and ability to deploy the
Right.
technology.
Right.
The
Yeah. When you say
technology is
1,000,000,000
deployed.
years ago, you really just mean 20 years ago.
Well, it seems like it was 1,000,000,000 years ago, but the technology now is we click a link, okay, and
Yeah. Change.
you
Yeah.
know, and and
Yeah.
and soon all of the training is going to be clicking a link coming out. All of the help.
It already
So
is. Acumatica just launched in the past week their Beacon website. So now you just go ask that thing questions with the AI. Oh yeah, totally. That's there already.
so
Yeah.
as a partner, when I had a project that had a beginning and had an end and had a statement of work to it, I had training, I had education, and I made money doing that. You're
Yeah.
not gonna make money doing that anymore.
Yeah. And I think it's still there. But it's just different. Yeah, I think that's evolving as well. But
It's not going to go to zero.
yeah.
Okay. But if it used to be $100, it's going to be $20.
Yeah, I just think that where the squeeze thing goes is I think it goes to you're not going to tell people what the switch does, but you're going to be able to tell them the horror stories of people who check the switch, right? That's the part that's not going to be in the help, right? I think you're
That's
still
true.
going to have that. You're going to have the battle stories. You're going to know. It goes back though to the industry side of things, right? It goes back to do I really want to track inventory at a serialized level in my particular industry, right? And nothing to do with software. That just has to do with processes around that. And I think the going back to the good news for partners. Look at the curmudgeon doing some good news style here. This is like an unusual episode, but going back to the good news. When you talked about the AI just being like the magnifying glass that amplifies the good and the bad, partners know this story super well. I mean, if you go back 30 years and you were taking people off of paper onto Great Plains, what did it do? It amplified stuff. I mean, it used to be that the accountants would review all the journal entries before it hit the general ledger. Now the ERP is just posting stuff for them, right? And every partner knows the story of a go live that they didn't realize things were going, or no one caught things until a couple of weeks in, where it's generating all this garbage in the GL in a certain area, right? They already know this good data, bad data story. They've lived it. They've experienced. They know how to deal with the human emotion of change in an organization. This is exactly the same thing when you're talking about the contextualizing specifically this M4 velocity suite. I think it's exactly the same thing in terms of landing in an organization and bringing a new piece of technology to it. Am I oversimplifying? What do you think?
No, I don't think you're oversimplifying at all. In fact, I think we tend to overcomplicate things. Now, one thing we haven't really talked about today, and I want to take it all the way back to the customer, as it were. We have a new customer today, Tim. Okay. We have people that buy differently today. We have people that have been raised in technology differently today. Okay. So, and they're going to be using AI to make decisions on who they partner with and who they invest with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have,
It's
as a
Google search on
partner.
steroid, right? I mean, we had the same new customer with the Google search, right? You're now buying off of Google's recommendations. It's the same story there, right?
Well, and generationally speaking, this millennial generation, and I don't say that in a disparaging way, they get information differently. They want to be approached differently. They search and desire, and they're asked and tasked by their organization to find specific solutions. It's no longer who's the best platform ABC partner that we should talk to. They're looking specifically for who does the best job with international supply chain management, who does the best job. They're looking for specific outcomes, and they're going to start prompting their searches to look for those specific outcomes. And if you're not experts in those outcomes and creating an environment where you can be found and you can demonstrate your expertise in those outcomes, you're not going to get asked to
you're talking about the whole
participate.
marketing function for a Varna, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's no longer good enough to have on your website industry served, manufacturing, 15 different things. You have to be, I do this, and I do it really well.
Yeah. I feel like it's been that way for a while, but yeah, LLMs are changing that super fast. I've noticed that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
I'm using
I
myself now,
challenge you,
like,
Tim. I challenge you, Tim. Pick your 10 favorite partners that
okay.
go to their website and I want to tell me how many of them have outcomes, KPIs for the industry that they support, that they produce, and they hang their hat on.
Well, it's funny because like if you had asked me that 6 months ago, maybe I would have done that. But now, only 6 months into it, I wouldn't even do that anymore. I would ask ChatGPT to do that for me.
Okay, well,
I
would suggest.
It's changing so fast. And you said millennial generation, like I just did a quick ChatGPT to remind me on ages of things. It's not even that anymore. It's Gen Z. I mean, they're making buying decisions already in organizations, right? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. It's normal. This is just how human beings work. But what is interesting is how fast our behaviors do change. And
Sure.
and that the speed of that seems to just accelerate more and more. But yeah, to the whole marketing point, I'm still trying to understand that part myself. I think everyone is like, and actually, I'm going to do a future. What is the upcoming? I'm doing an upcoming episode. Actually, you'll probably be interested in this. Let me see. Give me a second here. I'm doing one coming up in 2 weeks with Jim Rubble. Jim was tagged in a LinkedIn post by, I think it was Anya, someone I respect, kind of like Candace as well, who you mentioned.
Yeah, I
But
know Anya.
Jim's super into like surfacing the right data to LLMs from a marketing perspective and how to get found. And so he's been, yeah, he had some really super interesting things to say on the LinkedIn post, and he was willing to come on and let me pester him with questions. But yeah, like, how do these new engines work, right? Because there's always an element of mystery to how Google worked, right? No one really understood, but we just sort of figured out over time how to do SEO. And now you've got the same thing going on with AI. It's just more of a bleeding edge. We're all trying to figure out, yeah, where do we put our information to be found by the LLM? Yeah, so I'll be doing that July 31st with Jim, episode 181. But yeah, I mean, there's and again, coming back, I'll still put on the good news standpoint. Like, everyone's figuring this stuff out. Have fun with it. Don't be scared with it. Just, just put maybe an hour or two a week into thinking about this, and lean on others as well, like yourself. People are into it. Don't do it alone. And just kind of, I like the analogy of surfing. So I went with this ERP seal theme. Seal, because I like the characteristics of the animal seal, but there's also a surfing connotation there. And to me, that's this AI thing. Like, you don't want to be ahead of the wave if you're surfing, because the wave's going to come crash down on you. You don't want to miss it either, because then you're just bobbing up and down on your board. You just want to be right on it, but don't forget the fun component to it. Yeah, you can wipe out, and you will wipe out, but there's also a fun component. And if you just approach it with that fun attitude, I don't know. To me, I've been having fun with it too, because it's fun to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a post a little while back. I called it, from Y2K to YAI, and
I like that.
I've witnessed Y2K.
Yeah.
And I witnessed, client server, and then the interwebs, and then cloud, and then, so I've been fortunate enough to work with hundreds and hundreds of partners, and we've witnessed this journey, this technology journey together. And I think the AI, you said it earlier, I think there's a tremendous opportunity here, with AI. I am not anti. I hope I haven't come across today as a, get off my lawn. And AI is overrated. I believe AI is the anti-blockchain and IoT. There's places for each of those elements, but I think AI.
What do you mean by the anti-blockchain?
In other words, I think blockchain was significantly overhyped. It was going to solve everybody, and IoT was, every single device was going to be connected to the internet.
Yeah.
I think they were. Yeah. I think the hype cycle for them was way beyond what their ultimate value is going to be. I think there's a chance that we're undervaluing AI. We're still going to go into the trough because the timing isn't quite right yet. But
yeah, I think the stock market's already adjusting, but that's a whole nother ball game compared to the tech itself. Yeah. And the reason why that point really stands out to me, because to me, one of the things that when you're talking about I'm specifically talking about LLM technology when I'm talking about AI, because it overlays all this other stuff, blockchain, IoT, APIs. It just makes it makes all that technology easier to access. That's, I think, one reason why it's different, because it's not this standalone thing. It's like I'm writing code now. I'm building my own software stuff with Python. I never had the ability to do that before, but Python's an old programming language at this point, right? So yeah, when you say IoT, when you mention blockchain, like, I think that's part of it. That LLM just sort of stretches across the whole tech spectrum and allows you to do all that kind of stuff better. Do you think? Sorry to interrupt you, but that comment. Sorry, keep going.
No, but you said it earlier, and I share in your enthusiasm. I wish I'd have been introduced. I wish AI had come 10 years earlier, but AI is here now. I do believe it creates a tremendous opportunity for partners, but I do believe partners, they need to start making some tough decisions. Okay. If I'm going to become an AI expert, okay, and I'm going to use AI to create that. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is what I think. I think, an owner wakes up in the morning, a partner owner wakes up in the morning and says, okay, I need to have a durable, sustainable, profitable business. Okay. If AI is going to be an element to that, where's my AI bubble going to be? Well, it's got to start in a good data bubble. Then it's got to start with a customer that's really going to benefit from agentic AI or the AI bubble. And then what outcomes can I produce for that customer? So I have to really start thinking as a partner, what's my customer base going to be? Who are my technology partners going to be? Where's my data going to be coming from? And what outcomes am I going to become an expert in? Oil and gas, aerospace, and whatever it is, I have to figure out what I'm going to be an expert in, because I can't be
Totally
an
with
expert
you.
in everything.
And that thinking really has nothing to do with AI, right? Isn't that just the way you need to think as a business owner? You need to understand
Yeah,
what's
but
different.
we've been insulated from having to think about that for so long because we've been the technology experts.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we've
Okay.
we've been able to coast a little bit because I know how to write ODBC connections. Nobody else knows how to
Yeah.
write ODBC connections,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that's my value, and I'm going to charge you for that. Well, you know
Okay.
what? That can be done in milliseconds now.
Okay.
So I can't charge and bill for that anymore. I don't get to hit run on the shiny drink cup holder on the software anymore. Okay, so my value has to evolve to industry expertise and the outcomes that support the industries that I'm an expert in. And then what tools do I use to quickly, efficiently, profitably produce those outcomes? But if I don't have the right data,
What about the pain angle? So, like, I don't know. To me, being someone who's more on the geeky side of things, being with Trailed has been super fun. I feel like I've learned more about the business side in the last 2 years than ever, all years prior to that totaled up. But so I'm just saying I'm coming from that angle. But from the business standpoint, like when a partner's thinking about that, isn't a lot of it that you're just looking for pain? Like, isn't a big reason why customers buy things is they have a pain point? I mean, is it more
oh,
complicated than that?
Tim, pain point is one of my things where please, we're going to make a promise, pinky promise here. We're never
Uh,
going to say pain point again. Okay.
Really? I just mean when a
Everybody,
customer goes out and looks for a service, are they really looking for what they're really looking for is a solution to pain? But yeah, no, give me your thoughts on that.
everybody says pain point.
Okay.
Every publisher says it. Every sales methodology says it. When you start talking to a customer about pain points, okay, you
Yeah.
immediately sound like everybody else. And whether you like it or not, that customer is going, oh, here we go again.
I don't mean you use the phrase to the customer, but when you're thinking as a
But
VAR
everybody
business
does.
owner, but when you're thinking as a VAR business owner, isn't that what you're looking for? You're looking for what our companies needing help with these days? What's the pain?
Yeah, you're looking for, pick an industry, left-handed monkey wrench industry. Okay, who's the leader in the left-handed monkey wrench? How do they measure success? What are the outcomes that they're looking for? So
Yeah.
I would say you're looking for the outcomes.
Okay.
Okay. So when I sit in front of you for the first time and say, "Hey Tim, I'm Kent Richeson. I represent partner ABC, and we're experts in the left-handed monkey wrench business. These are the 5 things that every left-handed monkey wrench business company, measures themselves against. Are those the 5 things that you measure yourself again? Yes. Okay. Well, working with me, I'm going to be able to improve these metrics by this much, this much, this much, and this much using this
I see.
expertise,
I
these
see.
tools, and here are my customers that speak to that."
I like that.
Okay. You are an outcome expert. You're not, yes, it's semantics and it's phraseology, But
No,
I'm
you're
just
right. It is different. And to me, it really hones in. So you use these words durable, sustainable, and profitable to talk about a VAR. But this also applies to every single business, right? And
yes.
specifically the part about profitable, you have two ways to be profitable. You increase revenue or you decrease expenses. And if it, I think I'm starting to understand what you're saying here. Tell me if I'm getting it. If you're just focused on solving pain, then you're just sort of talking about the decreasing expenses. But if you're really focused on profitability and you talk about this is what you should be doing in your industry, here's the metrics you should be looking at, you're talking about growing a business, not just reducing expenses. Is that sort of what the broader thing of outcomes and not
Yeah,
just focusing on pain?
yeah, I think there's a balance. I think you can do of both, but we've got look, we I'm speaking in
But pain,
generalities
but
now.
pain's just a part of it. Like you're focusing on a bigger picture than
Yeah,
narrowing in on just focusing on pain. There's other ways to add value.
yeah, but typically, and for those that are listening or watching the recording, I'm not speaking to anyone in particular, but typically partners will sit with a customer and what do they say? Tell me about your business. And they take the
Good
customer
point.
through discovery. Tell me about your
Instead of
business.
telling the customer what they already know about their business, right?
Yeah, and they say, "Tell me about your business," and they capture every little thing. Tell me
Yeah, yeah,
about your pain points, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
And then they come back and they build a statement of work that will configure software to eliminate those pain points.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, as opposed to saying, in the aerospace and defense industry, these are the 5 regulatory and compliance issues you have. I can take those away. In the
Yeah,
manufacturing element of your things, here's how I can take that away.
I like
In
that.
so it's a
I
little
like
bit
that.
different. You still the discovery becomes more of a validation
Yeah,
than a true quote discovery.
I like that.
I
I
know
like
there's
that.
people out there that are watching this going, oh, they're rolling their eyes at me, going, "See," and I've had these conversations with many partners. Implementation is a bad word to me. Why? Because every time we say implementation, our customers have been trained to think how many hours and what's your rate.
Yeah, yeah,
They all have a spreadsheet, Tim. Okay, we've trained them. They are trained seals, no pun intended. Where what's the demo? What's the statement of work? How many hours? What's their rate? How much and they add up a column, and we've commoditized ourselves. So we need to be different. We can't be a commodity. We've earned the right. Okay, I'm looking at partners now, guys. You've earned the right to go to your customers and say, what value have I produced for you? And once you define that value, then
you're
talking
about your existing customer base right now. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have run.
Yeah, you don't have to build this in a vacuum. You just build this off of the work you've already done. Yeah,
That's right.
I
You've
like that.
earned the right. You are sitting on a gold mine, Tim. You've earned the right to go back and mine that gold. But the kicker now is, now that I've got that gold, okay, can I take that gold and can I remine it from a data repository that I can sell to other customers? And can I use AI to deliver that value more efficiently, more effectively, with a little intellectual property baked in, so that I can have that recurring revenue AI stream? That's the opportunity partners have today. But that you got to go to the gym. You got to start exercising. You got to go back and call your customers. What value have I produced for you? What economic impact have I had for you? Then you got to go back and say, holy crap, how did I do that? And now what tools do I have so I can do it mo better, mo faster?
So I love that. I'm going to hit 2 separate points that might sound different, but they're actually the same point. So the first point is you mentioned multiple times for anyone watching. In my opinion, this point, an hour and 40 minutes in, there is no one watching, and there never will be.
And who can blame them?
But the reason why I do this podcast in a live broadcast format now is pure laziness. Like if anyone shows up live, great. But it's pure laziness. I like that there's no post-production. Like when we end this stream, the recording's automatically available. It actually automatically goes out audio. It's all done. But what I've learned the last 6 months why I'm motivated to have these conversations publicly is no expectation that anyone's even going to listen to it or watch it. It has everything to do with the LLMs. And so to the thing you were talking about earlier about someone going to someone's website and looking for XYZ, I would never do that anymore myself. I would ask the LLM, but it's going to crawl the website. And same thing, but when you put something out on YouTube, the LLMs see it. And so what we're doing, this to me is the entry point to to contribute human knowledge to the LLM ecosystem. It's by doing a live broadcast over LinkedIn and YouTube. So that's one point. But then that ties in, I think, perfectly to your point about mining the gold from your existing customer base. What value did we actually add from your perspective? I might have looked at it as I provided these things and that was the value, and they might say something completely different. The super cool thing, and I'm going to put these 2 points together, all you got to do now is get on calls and record them and feed them into the LLM and let it mine those gold nuggets for you, right? I mean, because then you don't have to have one person do it. You could have, you get on calls and we've been doing this at Trail. We use a tool called Fathom. Yeah, Fathom. There's a bunch of them out there. Firefly is another popular one that kind of embed the AI with the recordings, and it can help you mine those gold nuggets for, which I think is pretty interesting. And the more you iterate with it, you just start to help me build a shell, help me build a framework for how I'm now going to go into a prospect and communicate the work that I've done with my existing customers the past 20 years in the context of what's going on in the world today with AI and pain points in that specific industry. I said pain points, where the industry is going for, aerospace manufacturing. What are the big concerns that they have? What are the things affecting company profitability? You can just do all this in a stream of consciousness thing, dump it into the LLM and have it help you provide the structure. And
Sure.
yeah, so to me, those 2 points kind of go together. Like what I'm doing on the podcast now, just sort of like you just giving content to the LLM, and you could do the same thing if you're a VAR looking to mine gold out of your existing customer base.
And that's what I do. So on my desktop, I have workspaces that are driven by AI that talk about, the evolving partner business model. And so if I have a conversation with a partner, I'll capture all those notes and I'll feed it into my workspace, and I'll say, okay, I just talked to Bob today, and then I talked to Cheryl. I'm sorry, Bob and Cheryl, those are made up names, but I talked to Bob this morning and Cheryl this afternoon, and this is what we talked about. How does that map to the theory of the pressure that partners are seeing as publishers ramp up, the amount they have to sell to maintain their margin level, and the average deal price gets squished down because of the commodity competition that's in the marketplace, and as their service revenues get squished because of AI, what are they doing to make up for that revenue stream? How are they deploying people to do that? How does that map to what I heard that Mary said on Tuesday, or Steve said last Thursday, or this LinkedIn post, or what Candace said? So you can bring it all together. But then the thing you have to remember to do is, at the end of every week, I say create a summary document of everything that we talked about this week, so that you have a physical record of how your thoughts have evolved because my thoughts have changed, since I started this journey when I first came to Infor. What have I heard from partners? What have I learned talking to people such as yourself and other people? What have I learned that has sharpened my thoughts? But
I'm curious can you tell me about the mechanics of how you're feeding? So I just switched over to using something called Notion for all of my meeting notes, for my handwritten notes. What are you doing to actually, do you capture transcripts from meetings that you're in? Do you just do handwritten notes?
I do a mixture of both.
And then when you say you dump it into a workspace, what is that? Is that like a Microsoft thing, or what is that?
Yeah, I'll go into notes, or I'll go into. I'm a Microsoft Word guy. I mean, I'm a stream of consciousness. Where I'll just type it in, and I'll just upload it to my tab, and say, July 17th, Tim Rodman doesn't agree with me, but I was able to wear him down. That's one of my. It's one of my
So
stock
OneNote,
phrases.
you're doing it in OneNote? Is that what you're doing?
Or Microsoft Word,
Okay.
or really anywhere.
And then when you said workspace, that's what you meant by workspace, like one of those tools
Correct.
you're dumping into. Okay.
Correct.
And then how are you feeding it over to the LLM? I'm just curious how people are doing it.
Edit, copy, paste.
Yeah. So okay. So you're doing it that way. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
and then that works. Yeah.
When I write things down, okay, it helps me retain it.
Yeah. I'm the same. But yeah, you're experiencing that. So and that's the same point you were making earlier with data and I was using the word context, but it's the same thing, right? You're dumping something in there. Here's the context, and now I have some questions about it. And I really like how you pointed out, how does this then fit into the broader themes that people are talking about? And when you're talking about Candace's post, would you do the same thing there? Like you dump in your copy paste your private meeting notes and copy paste Candace's post. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And and I when Candace sends out the newsletter, Candace, you're getting a lot of good, pub here, which is well earned and well deserved. But I commented right back to her. I said, Candace, this is best thing I've read. Scary in how you're applying it to the individual owner brand, and I'm applying it to the partner brand. And a lot of times in the ERP partner world,
sometimes there's overlap. Yeah,
they're one and the same, but the owners of most VARs, this, Tim, they're the best salesperson, they're the best consultant, they're the best everything. And now more than ever, where AI is going to start to compress some of those roles, it's time to start working on your business, not necessarily in your business.
And good marketers, and Candace is one of them, in my opinion. Yeah, they're good at separating those two. Let's make your business stand alone from just the person.
Yeah. So you gotta work on your business. You gotta get off the treadmill. And AI is here to stay. And AI is going to be the successful ERP VAR partners of the future are going to figure out a way to use AI to create recurring revenue, recurring services revenue, and economic impact and outcomes for the industry and customers they choose to pursue.
Sure.
That's what they're going to
do with cloud ERP, just like they did with other stuff in the past. Yeah. From that standpoint, that's where I keep coming back to. It's not that different. And that's where I like the surfing analogy. Just get on the wave and have fun with it, because if you approach it from a fun perspective, you'll figure out pretty quickly that it's actually not that crazy different than other changes you've already gone through, at least in my opinion.
But it can help you change faster.
Agreed. Speed is a whole nother thing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I have a phrase, that I talk to partners all the time. Speed is a strategy. Okay. But just running on a treadmill as fast as you can isn't a strategy. You will run yourself to exhaustion. You won't be able to run fast enough to keep up with AI. So you have to get off the treadmill, and because there's curves up ahead, you have to figure out a way, how quickly am I going to go? How quickly can I drive this car through the dangerous curves that are coming up and not get left behind? That's, if you choose not to invest in the AI outcome opportunity, I think you're going to miss an opportunity.
Yeah. It is. It's no longer science fiction. It's a legitimate technology that's here to stay, just like previous technology.
It's funny. So we were watching, we had our grandkids over to the house last weekend for a 2-night sleepover, which was great. And one of the movies they wanted to watch was The Incredibles. Do a quick search. When did The Incredibles, I think, came out in 2012 is when it came out. A while ago.
Yeah, whenever it was, yeah.
They mention artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a term. I like pointing this out. What's his name? Zach Cass. He was the former head of go-to-market at OpenAI. He points out that we've been talking about artificial intelligence since the 1950s. Yeah, that term's been around for over 70 years. Yeah, it's nothing new. Yeah.
So you've been doing a lot of these, Tim. How did we do today? Was this interesting? Was it useful? Was it?
Yeah, no, it was super interesting to me. I wouldn't be still on this an hour and 50 minutes in if I wasn't engaged. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Yeah, appreciate it.
Do you think it's going to produce some value to to people in the world? I hope so.
Oh, I don't know, and I don't care. As long as it produces value to me personally, I'm happy to record it. And then it's sort of like,
I do care. I do care. I hope people,
I guess, yeah, I don't care is the wrong phrase to use. I've said that phrase too many times, and then I think about it later. It's just not the right phrase. What I really mean is I don't need it to add value to others to make it worth my while. I guess that's what maybe that's a friendlier way of saying it. Like, it's worth my while to have a conversation that I would have loved to have anyways, and just hit record on it. And if there's one other person who it's valuable to, great. If it's only consumed by the LLMs, that's great too. And so, no, I totally worth it to me. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity, Tim. And if there's again, if there's an opportunity, or if you want to revisit some of the things we've talked about and give me a time limit, I'm okay with that. I am trainable.
I will. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I will. Actually, it's already on there. It's already on the episode page at erpseal.com/episode 179. The LinkedIn post that you had done that sort of kicked off the whole idea of doing a podcast episode. You had just done a post with your thoughts of some of the things trending in AI, and that's on the episode page as well.
Great. Anything else, Tim, I can do for you today? I don't mean to cut it off, but I think an hour and 50 minutes is probably good. I mean, if nobody's done 2 hours, I got 10 minutes left in me. If we want to do that.
I think we're good. Yeah, I'm in a similar spot. I think we ran the gamut, and now it's time to recover. We got in a good. I'll continue with the workout analogy. We got in some cardio and some weightlifting today, and now it's good to go hit the shower. Yeah, I think we did good.
Tim, thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I hope we get a chance to talk soon.
Sounds great. I'll see you, Kent.
Thanks, buddy. Bye now.